Could this be Jim Harbaugh's last year at Michigan? Plus, Tom Herman and the Texas Longhorns, are they really back? And finally, can Will Muschamp get another win against the Dogs to keep his job at South Carolina? All this and more coming up next on Heisman Talk. Many coaches may be facing the hot seat this year, but a few might be under more pressure than others. One of those head coaches being Jim Harbaugh of the Michigan Wolverines. This might be his last season in Ann Arbor. Since 2015, he's gone 47-18, which is a pretty good record. However, he has never beat Ohio State, and Michigan fans are not happy about it. In fairness, most people can't beat Ohio State, but you would think a coach of Jim Harbaugh's caliber would be able to overcome this. Maybe he's under a lot of pressure. I don't know. Another question you got to ask yourself is, who does he go and get? You know, you look at the head coaches around the college football carousel, not many can stand up against what Jim Harbaugh has accomplished, including his NFL career with the 49ers. So I'll be curious. I think some key things that he has to do to keep his job after next year. For one, he's got to beat Ohio State. He's got to get Michigan over the hump. If he doesn't, I don't know what's going to happen. Michigan's going to go 10-3, just like they do every year. I mean, he's had a pretty good record. He's had 3 out of the last 5 years have been 10-3 records. However, if you don't get that key win against Ohio State, if you don't make it past that hump and get them to the Big Ten championship, it's going to be very hard to keep your job much longer. So I think he's got to beat Ohio State. Next, I think he's got to make a New Year's Six Bowl at the least. If he doesn't beat Ohio State, he's at least got to make a New Year's Six Bowl. Or he's got to finish in the top 10. Either way, it seems like everything leads back to beating Ohio State. So will Jim Harbaugh get Michigan over that hump and beat Ohio State? I don't know. He hasn't shown me anything deserving to be able to do that yet. In fact, I'm pretty sure he lost to, who was it, Indiana last year? You can't slip up like that. You can't have losses like that. And I think the only thing that's saving his job is, for one, the background that he has, and for two, Michigan really doesn't know who else to go get at this point. I think if a new head coach comes up in the rankings, then Jim Harbaugh is on his way out. In my opinion, he should have been out a year ago. But hopefully he proves me wrong. Hopefully he leads Michigan to an 11-12 win season, makes it to the playoffs, or at least wins the Big Ten championship. I think if he could win the Big Ten championship, I think he's got a chance at staying. Then we go out west to the Texas Longhorns. In fact, it was over a year ago that quote-unquote Texas was back. They went 10-3 and they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. But they followed it up with a mediocre season this year, I think, with 7 wins. Tom Herman, a former grad assistant back in the 90s, started out his coaching career at Texas. Went away for a while, coached under Urban Meyer at Ohio State. Then went to Houston, and you know what he did with that program for 3 years. And then he comes to Texas, and in 3 seasons, he's gone 25-15. He's had 2 top recruiting classes, 2 top 3 recruiting classes in the last 3 years. Finished 9th this season in recruiting. He's got a pretty good resume, besides the 15 losses. However, you know, for one, he's got to beat Oklahoma. 2 years ago, they beat Oklahoma, and it was a huge deal. And then they lose in the Big 12 championship, which they probably should have won. This past year, they lose to Oklahoma. They don't make it to the championship. I think they have 7 or 8 wins. So he's got to improve. Now, I understand he's only entering his 4th season, so you got to give him some time to develop. But the fact that he's had 2 top 3 recruiting classes in the past 3 years, come on. Something's got to give. Those kids are juniors and seniors now. So Tom Herman could be on the hot seat as well. He could be facing his last year at Texas. Then we head to one of the most difficult conferences in all of college football, the SEC. More particular, we look at the SEC East at South Carolina and Will Muschamp. Now, Will Muschamp has, again, another great resume as being a coach in college football. If you remember correctly, he was on the LSU staff under Saban back in the early 2000s. Then he coached at Florida. Had a great time there. Then he gets hired at South Carolina. I believe it was 3 or 4 years ago. And since then, he's gone 26-25. He's basically had a 500 record. Last year, I believe he was on the hot seat then. But a key win over Georgia on the road basically kept his job. But can he take that team to the next level? He brings in Mike Bobo, who was a former offensive coordinator at Georgia, then went out, I believe, to Colorado State to be the head coach there. Leaves there, takes a break, and then ends up at South Carolina. So I think in order for Will Muschamp to keep his job, I think for one, he's got to go back-to-back. He's got to beat Georgia again. He's got to get a key win that gets that team going. I think he's got to beat a Florida and a Tennessee too. I'm not sure if he's got to win the East to keep his job, because you look at Florida and Georgia, and really even Tennessee might be on the upcome. We'll see. But especially Georgia and Florida, they own the East right now. It's very evident. But if he can beat one or two of those teams, and I think finish in the top 25 overall, and then finish 2 or 3 in the SEC East, I'd chalk that up as a pretty good season for Will Muschamp. But overall, he's got to get it together. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode, as we'll talk about the future of college football and whether we will have a season or not this year. Until next time, make sure to subscribe, give this video a big thumbs up, and as always, stay safe. This is Nate Dogg, signing off.